Well, here we go again. I'm just sitting down and I'm going to do some cutting. Get ready to make. Tonight will be chili pork Verde. So that once goes into the garbage. And we'll just go right here and we'll knock this all off. Just a nice little bit. That one looks eatable. Yeah. I'll just go over here with these. Alright. I keep my trusty pot right handy. And then I'm just going to go one more time here and see how far we get. Yeah, that's about as far as I like to go with mine, because what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to cut this heel and just a nice little cut off, see, clean it up. And then I'm going to put that into some water, and that goes in the garbage. Then I'm going to put that in some water, and that's going to be a celery in a couple of months, because I'm going to kind of cultivate that here in the garden and transplant it into the big garden. But for right now, it's going to be in the little interior garden. Oh, another one for the tire. So let's get into the hard ones here. Let's do the onion next. Take my ends off. They go into the garbage. And then I cut her down through the middle. And then it's peel time. Get all this skin off. And get down to the meat of things here. And this actually, you could grow this. See this here? This is actually growing onion. I can actually put that in water and I can grow an onion from that too. And it's amazing how that will propagate. Now, most people don't realize that the onions and the carrots and all the vegetables that you can grow. Oh, there's my automatic light decided I wasn't moving enough. Yeah, all the stuff that you can grow in your garden basically, that you buy in the store and pay the big bucks for, it can all be propagated just from what you get from them from the store, just by, like I said, leaving that little bit of cucumber on the the celery on the last, and you stick that in a little piece of, like a thing of water, like a little, I actually use the red cups. I don't have one right handy here, but I use a red cup that I get at Walmart, and I just fill the bottom with water, and lo and behold, in about 2 weeks, I've got roots. So the roots are kind of nice. Then I place them, once they're rooted, then I put them into regular earth pots with a potting soil, and then they'll grow like that for a while in the house. It's still cold outside here. Like, we're still probably just around the freezing mark and below right now, which is not fun. So I don't like it. I don't like that. But yeah, it's good. You know, it's getting warmer out, and I have to be happy with the getting warmer part. So that's the first half onion into the pot along with the celery, and we're going to have quite a pot here. Now I'm going to pull this over, and you see this here, I happen to cut that in two. That's 2 more onions that are going to grow for me, and let's just chop this up. Now I put my finger across the back of the knife here to stop the onion from falling apart. And if you notice, the top of my knife has a nice little finger groove there. Problem is that it's not really designed for what it's doing for me, but it does the job. And yeah, so now we'll cut up again. And of course, it will always, when you're using a plastic cutting board, it will slide. So what I usually do is just do a little bit of extra chop here. Georgina, she laughs at me when I chop, you know, my onions. She says, this is my fine chop, and she calls that a fairly coarse chop. Now, I have to agree with her. For certain things, you definitely need a very fine chop. However, chili pork verde is not one of those things, I don't think. Nor is soup. But if you're making some kind of a relish or whatever, then you definitely are looking for a very fine chop. Now I'm going to start into my next onion here, which happens to be a red one with some loose skins on it already, which I'm going to try and take away because this is always a problem when you're trying to cut pieces of onion off. So, and it can slip on you, and usually when you slip, that's when you got a kind of a cut coming, and that's not fun. So now down through the middle again, same thing, same trick. Now take note, I'm growing a red onion in here, and I got a piece out here. It's not growing though, so I can leave it here, but I've got this piece up in here. See this one? I can start an onion from this. So I'm going to just peel that out of there. You see how I'm getting in there with my finger. And I'm just going to take that onion, if I can get it out of there. There it is, a piece of red onion that's kind of green. Okay, and I will start an onion from that. And just by putting it in a little bit of water, and it will, next thing you know, grow roots and pop out of the ground, turn green, make it look like it's going crazy, and yeah, it's kind of interesting the way that is. I love growing things from nothing, and I would say that this qualifies as from nothing, because most people would just throw those things either in the garbage or right into whatever it is if you were making a stew. And there's nothing wrong with that. Like, I've never had a problem eating something that was green that went into my stews or any of my foods. I happen to really, I love to put that green in. But at this time of the year, I tend to be more like, I definitely want to, you know, get it and preserve it to grow another onion for me. Now you can see here I've got the same thing. See, I just push down on it and look, it's going to come out. So there is another onion on its way, and didn't cost me a dime, other than I'm going to have to add a little bit of water and a plastic cup that's probably worth about a half a cent. And water, I live in the country, so at the cottage here we have lots of water, and yeah, I pay for the pump running with the power, but it you know, I'm going to tell you, in the summertime, my bills for water, my bills for electricity are very, very small, and they give rebates to people who save money on their electric bill by reducing it. When they introduced that bill, I had already converted my whole house, my whole cottage was over to LEDs, first of all. When I went on to LEDs, and there's a real good story. When I first went on to LEDs, I took my bill from $44 a month to, no, from $120 a month to $44 a month. So at $44 a month, it's like next to nothing really. So I just take the stem portion out of there, and you can see that I still have excellent stuff to make, you know, choppings for my chili pork. And I tend to work from left or from right to left, I guess, because I'm a righty. It's amazing. I guess people that are left-handed would probably have to do this the other way around. You know, it's part of growing up, I guess. You get used to it. My mother was a person that was left-handed and dominant, and yeah, she made it through life just fine. Now I usually just reach in here, and there is a whole pile of red seeds that you can actually plant. And if you want to, you can go crazy with them. You could plant them, and you could grow probably from those few seeds that you just saw right there. You could probably have at least 100 pepper plants. And as you know, every pepper plant will produce between 5 and 10, maybe more, peppers. And so if you like peppers, buy one pepper at the store and just cut out the seeds just the way you saw me do it, because every one of those seeds has not been broken as far as the shell. And so by doing that, we can now plant them. They're just like every other seed that you would buy. Now, on those ones, I tend to dry them for a couple of weeks, and I usually put them near a heating register in the house so that I can actually, you know, watch them dry. And that helps them a lot when you can dry them out. And then just as you're about to plant them, that's when you want to soak them overnight in water, or for a couple hours if you don't have like a spot for overnight. But yeah, you just do it that way, and you know, it'll grow much better if it's been soaked, even for an hour or two. You know, just something to get it going, to get the water in it and give it half a chance. And I usually plant that in potting soil inside the house this time of the year, March, April. And then usually after the 24th of May around here, we become very, you know, frost-free around that time period. And so we can then plant our you know, fresh spring growth that we have at that time into our gardens. And it's fun, something that everybody can do, except some people say, oh, I can't do it in an apartment building. But yes, you can. If you have a couple of pots on your balcony, if you have a balcony. Now, granted, you need a balcony, but you know, some people's apartments are air conditioned. The balcony is not usually, if you have one. The other thing I saw was a lady moving into an apartment building in Guelph, and this has got to be like 20 or 30 years ago now. And she was an older lady, and she definitely, you could tell, had a garden. Anyway, what happened was they come in to do landscaping on her building property, the new building property, and they brought in a load of topsoil. Well, after they dropped the topsoil in the afternoon that day, she was right out there, and she started pushing it down and pushing it around, and before nightfall she had all of her plants in. Well, the building management were probably upset with her, but you know something? She planted that hill year after year. I can remember driving by. It was right beside a fairly busy road that I used, and yeah, I saw her out there most nights, and sometimes in the early mornings when I'd be coming off my night shift. Yeah, she'd be right out there in that garden. the management never did take that garden away from her. So she had that garden for the whole time that she was alive. I imagine she's probably gone now because, like I said, she was an older lady at that time, and so she's probably long gone. But yeah, planting stuff and growing stuff for, eating purposes. Now, you're probably not going to grow enough to keep yourself going over the winter. And that's okay because we have stores with lots of stuff in them. And you can buy from the store, in the midwinter or late winter. And I wouldn't be a bit embarrassed about that. But you can keep a lot in a very small freezer in your house. And I usually do things down in jars, like I'll do jars of peppers, I'll do jars of beans, I'll do frozen beans, and, basically I do a lot of things that I keep through the winter, and, I'll go into the dark corner that I keep it in, because I always keep everything like that in a dark spot. It sort of discourages, it from growing, I guess. I don't know why I do that, but I do. And yeah, so it's something that everybody can do, but not many people think about, I guess. When I was first married, before I knew Georgina, I was married to another lady, and she had grown up in a family that had worked on a capon farm, which is chickens that have had a little operation to stop them from reproducing, and so they would grow bigger. And so anyway, her mom and dad really didn't have much money, but they certainly knew how to propagate, and so they had populated their family to a large size, and so they were, basically they were feeding everybody from the gardens. And so, for my first wife, it was nothing for her to get out the canning equipment, and we would can everything in the fall and eat off it over the winter, and that food was some of the best food, really, that you could have. I mean, yes, it's nice that we get a lot of things from, the South and U.S., but I think that having stuff that we grow here is, much more in keeping with what's going on. And, we just don't know when our supply trucks or farms will no longer be able to bring stuff out of the South. I'm thinking that, currently we have a situation. I don't know, what's going to happen with it, but I hope that people, at the top can resolve their little difficulties and we can move on to a different world, certainly it's, yeah, I just don't want to say much about it. I have feelings on it. It's upsetting for me because I do like the availability of stuff from the South in the winter. But we are in a situation right now where we might have to feed ourselves. And this is one way that we could quite definitely feed ourselves, is by growing things and, in our little spots. The other thing I was thinking about is community gardens. The advent of the community garden is pretty neat because you can have little gardens, plots that give you like 20 by 40 or 20 by 60, or some places you can get like 2 plots. They won't always give you them side by side, but they will give you 2 plots if you ask. Or maybe those people are, using their sister's or their brother's plot, and, maybe the sister or the brother just don't care to garden that way. But, you can always get a garden plot in the city. And it's pretty amazing what people grow in there. You know, there's certainly enough for everybody to eat without having to go to the store as much. I myself, I really like going to my garden for my vegetables and knowing that it's stuff that I grew, and you know, that I feel much better about stuff that I grew than not knowing, you know, what chemicals were sprayed on things and stuff like that. So now I'm down to the peppers and this other thing here. Georgina wanted to put this in, and I want to talk to her about how she would like to chop this up. I've never ever cooked one of them before, and I have 2 peppers. Peppers are one of those things that you certainly don't want to get into a pepper without protecting yourself with some kind of plastic. Excuse me. And I don't happen to have a plastic bag right handy. Maybe I do. Hold on. Never noticed that I have these bags sitting here. Maybe I can just carry on. Yeah. Oh, this is beautiful. So yes, you can see I just have a regular Ziploc bag, and I can put my hand in there. And as you can see, I can now touch this on my left hand. I get that top off, and then I'm going to split the thing down the middle. All right. And I've got seeds in here. You want to grow your own hot peppers? Here you go. There's the seed. Now, be very careful of this, because like I said, I've got my one hand in a plastic bag, and you can most definitely grow from these seeds same way you would the other peppers. Just dry them out and then soak them just as you're going to plant them, and yeah, they'll produce for you wonderfully. You'll have hot peppers, and I grow hot peppers in the summer here, and yeah, I think they're wonderful. So you notice I'm just moving that over to the side. I'm going to give this a little whack with the side of my knife, knock most of the seed out of it, and then I'm going to take and slice this long ways like I did the other one, and then I'll go the other way on it. And it's harder with the plastic bag, believe me, but you do get used to working with it. Now, I don't chop at 100 miles an hour. If you chop the corner off your bag, okay, I didn't do it yet, but if you happen to chop the corner off your bag, do not use it any further. Go and get another bag and start again, because you really don't want to feel what that feels like on your hands. Then you stick your finger in your eye, and it's like, oh my gosh, how did that happen, you know? So yeah, peppers when they're hot can be not fun to play with. So yeah, be careful. There, that one came out nicely. See all the seeds on my knife too? And there's another one. Okay. So yeah, we're having fun here. This is just me cutting up some peppers, some onions, celery, and these happen to be the hot pepper. And notice I'm just raking everything all into that little for later growth pile. All right? So now I don't go and grab, I almost did it. I don't go and grab my pot handle with my plastic bag on, because I handle that pot handle quite a few times through my cooking process. See, I almost grabbed that thing again with my right hand. Okay, not a good idea. So now I'm going to split her down the middle, and then I'm going to split her down the middle again and again, and then I'll be able to take out the center white area and remove that. Sometimes it's difficult. This is a very sharp knife, by the way. and I keep it that way, and it works for me much better when it's sharp. Now, it will, being sharp like this, it will cut this plastic bag like it's nothing. You know, they always say like paper, but this is like a plastic bag would cut. And yeah, you got to be very careful with what you're doing, that's for sure. But look at all the seeds that I just got. So now I'm just going to give out a wipe on the edge of the table, and that'll be my seeds that I'll pick up later. Okay, so now I'm just going to go and cross-cut these again. I don't get into a high-speed cut usually. I'm not a, you know, I watch some of these chefs, and man, it's a wonder they don't take fingers and knuckles and nails and everything else off. But no, I tend to be a little bit more controlled and take my time with this knife. And yeah, it's sharp, believe me. No problem for it to cut me. So now I've got that ready. Up there, I almost went and reached for that pot handle again. Notice that I'm starting to get quite a full pot here. Here, I'll bring that up where you can see it. Look at that, all that stuff in there. So this is the start of all my veggies. Okay, so now I'm going to leave that for a bit. And there's just that one more piece. And I'm going to I'll move us over in a minute, and you'll be able to see the other part. Okay, we're back again. Hope you can see that I have some pork chops here. You can see over here in this little label maybe that I paid $21.43. Now, I did not pay that for this 4 pieces. I paid that for 8 pieces that were all like this. Now, this has just come out of the freezer a little bit ago. And so what I'm doing now is just putting a little bit of dry rub on, and I'm giving it a bit of a whack with the spoon, and that's to kind of attach it to the pork. And I'll get Georgina, and we'll have in the recipe for this exactly what was in our dry rub. I couldn't begin to tell you right now, but she's quite an amazing rub maker, and she makes all kinds of good stuff, believe me. So yeah, she really is a lot of the brain. I'm the brawn. So yeah, you'll find that we tag team quite well. So she's laying down right now, and this is my evening fun. I get to do this after dinner, or we have a friend coming for dinner tomorrow afternoon, and we've been trying to get this particular meal together for him for some time. So I'm quite sure that he'll be surprised. He loves hot food, and so we're making it up for him, and we've got a few other little surprises going on too. So now that's the dry rub on. Okay, I'll get rid of this tag. We don't need that anymore. Now I'm going to take the top off of the Instant Pot. I'm going to bring it up where you can see it. Okay, hopefully you'll be able to see that there. And I'm just going to adjust things a little bit so that you can see what's going on in there. This becomes more difficult, of course, but I think you'll be able to see now what's going on in the Instant Pot. And so what I'm going to do, we have this nice little, I don't even know what they call this, but it's a baskety thing. Okay, you can see in my Instant Pot is empty. So what I do is I put that in there, and then I'm going to add a little bit of chicken broth, like a whole concentrate. Okay, that's the first thing to go in. Now I don't do this after I put my pork in here because excuse me, I don't want it to wash the pork off. And I'm going to add about that much. Okay, you can see that it's still behind the label almost. So not much water. And then I'm going to put these in. And I'm going to try and balance them up against the center spike. Because there's that little lifty out spiky thing there. And so there that goes in there like that. Now I still have all this rub here, so I'm going to try and guide that down onto the meat. And wherever it lands, that's good. And if it gets down in, as far down in as the water and the chicken broth, then that will just steam up all that goodness to us and help us out. Okay, so now we are at that part of the process where I can wipe my fingers for a minute. And so basically I'm going to have to get the power cord over here to run this. And but I can close this up now because I have my fluids in, I have my meat in, and we're basically ready to rock and roll. So now what I'm going to do is just run the power cord over, and I will be plugging in the amount of time, and it will be a full-on release. It will not be a short release. So I will just let it go until it releases completely on its own. In other words, yeah. So here we are. We're going to push pressure cook. There we go. And we're going to have to bring that down a lot to 10 minutes. Okay, our lid is closed and we're going to be ready to go. It will first come to on, and then as the steam builds inside and we go up to where the poppet rises and we're under pressure, then we will start our 10-minute count. So this probably will run 10 minutes of, well, I'm going to say 7 or 8 minutes of warming time, then 10 minutes of cooking, and then we're going to be into about a 15-minute release. And we're doing a natural release. So we're going to have some of the most tender pork chops though. And that's that part of our... So there we are. We're back in the pot of all the veggies again. And you can see that I have it on my cooker. And we're cooking, and I will bring you back in a little while and be able to let you see what's going on. However, in the meantime, you can notice that right in the middle I made a big hole. And I have butter down in there, which is melting, and I also have a little bit of oil, which would be the olive oil. So I'll bring you back.
Everything's been put together in the big copper pot. The vegetables were all sauteed, and the pork chops have come out of the Instant Pot and have been chopped into convenient mouth-sized pieces. Everything is in there right now except the canned diced chilies, which will go in shortly, and I'll let it sit in the fridge overnight and check the flavor again in the morning when I put it on for a low simmer. But I think that looks like a party, and it sure smells good.
I think it smells great.
So that's what's for dinner tomorrow night.
Tomorrow night.
And there's the finished product. The chili pork verde is bowled instead of plated, and at the top you can see just a little garnish of our favorite corn chips, which are Fritos. They're different than tortilla chips. They have a very intense, wonderful, crispy corn taste. Are you going to taste one for us, Stephen? Stephen's going to taste one for us. They're quite lovely. They're a great contrast to the lovely smooth texture of the tender pork and the other vegetables, and they add a very complimentary taste and flavor.